Have you ever wondered why you get obliged to sign into a Google account whenever you turn on a brand new Android phone? Have you ever wondered why at sign up it takes only one step to activate all your Google account settings, but needs a manual personalization to activate the more privacy-friendly options? Well, if you haven't yet, then chances are you just might be overlooking at a seemingly simple and harmless request from Google that is compromising your privacy and that is helping the tech giant feed off of your ignorance. Google and other tech big guns like Facebook, now Meta Platform Incorporated, have all been called out before in the past for intruding into the privacy of its users. But with fresh waves of accusations and possible lawsuits piling up against the company in Europe regarding privacy issues, one would ponder if similar complaints raised against the company in the past didn't deter the company from its hideous acts, and if it would now, how does Google really spy on you? How bad is this act from Google? Should it be a cause for alarm? To find out more, watch this episode to the very end. This is BTTV. In a press release released on the 30th of June 2022 by the European Consumer Organization, it was revealed that Google is using deceptive design, unclear language and misleading choices when consumers sign up to a Google account to encourage more extensive and invasive data processing. And contrary to its claims, the tech giant is thwarting consumers who want to better protect their privacy. And that for this reason consumer groups are taking action on suspected breaches of the GDPR. Tech giant Google is unfairly steering consumers towards its surveillance system when they sign up to a Google account, instead of giving them privacy by design and by default as required by the General Data Protection Regulation, GDPR. As a result, 10 consumer groups, under the coordination of the European Consumer Organization, BEUC, are taking action to ensure that Google complies with the law. Ursula Packel, Deputy Director General of the European Consumer Organization, BEUC, said, "Contrary to what Google claims about protecting consumers' privacy, tens of millions of Europeans have been placed on a fast track to surveillance when they signed up to a Google account. It takes one simple step to let Google monitor and exploit everything you do. If you want to benefit from privacy-friendly settings, you must navigate through a longer process and a mix of unclear and misleading options. In short, when you create a Google account, you are subjected to surveillance by design and by default. Instead, privacy protection should be the default and easiest choice for consumers." A consumer can choose to create a Google account voluntarily or be obliged to create one when they use certain Google products and services. For example, they must create an account when they buy a smartphone that uses Google's Android system, which almost 7 in 10 phones worldwide, 69%, depend on, if they want to download apps from the Google Play Store. Sign-up is the critical point at which Google makes users indicate their choices about how their Google account will operate. With only one step, the consumer activates all the account settings that feed Google's surveillance activities. Google does not provide consumers with the option to turn all settings off in one click. If consumers want to activate the more privacy-friendly options, this requires manual personalization. 5 steps with 10 clicks and grappling with information that is unclear, incomplete, and misleading. Regardless of the path the consumer chooses, Google's data processing is untransparent and unfair, with consumers' personal data being used for purposes which are vague and far-reaching. It is now crucial that the relevant authorities start investigations and take swift action. Many of these problems are not entirely new, as BEUC and its members launched a series of coordinated complaints in November 2018 about Google's processing of consumers' location data. Unfortunately, these complaints remain unresolved. Ursula Packel added, "Google is a repeat offender. It is more than 3 years since we filed complaints against Google's location tracking practices, and the Irish Data Protection Commissioner in charge has still not issued a decision on the case. Meanwhile, Google's practices have not changed in essence. The tech giant still carries out continuous tracking and profiling of consumers, and its practices set the tone for the rest of the market. We need swift action from the authorities because having one of the biggest players ignoring the GDPR is unacceptable." This case is of strategic importance for which cooperation among data protection authorities across the EU must be prioritized and supported by the European Data Protection Board. As the red thread that connects everything Google users do, the Google account sign-up process has important repercussions for consumers' privacy. It unifies and personalizes the experience of Google users across all the company's services. The account also helps set Google's surveillance as the bedrock for the digital market, as many companies depend on Google for their day-to-day operations and services. The language Google uses at every step of the registration process is unclear, incomplete, and misleading. Important information, particularly about what the data processing that three main account settings entail, app personalization, YouTube and web and app activity, or about the options that a user can choose from, is not presented up front, is vague or is missing. Google also frames the more privacy-friendly options as missing out on advantages. This prevents the consumer from taking an informed decision when they make their choices and results in unfair, non-transparent and unlawful processing of their personal data. Google is one of the world's most profitable companies, with tens of millions of European consumers relying on its products and services on a daily basis. It is a colossus in the world of surveillance capitalism. 81% of its revenue comes from its advertising operations, which in turn depend on the data it hoovers up on people to personalize adverts for them. From advertising, the company is forecast to earn €221 billion, or $244 billion in 2022, which is almost double the amount its closest competitor, Facebook, is expected to make from digital advertising, €123.6 billion, or $136 billion. So it is very unlikely that the company would back down on its privacy surveillance system, but as long as this goes against the law, complaint like this would keep resurfacing every now and then. You've been watching BTTV. Thank you for watching this episode. Catch you in the next one. Bye.